Okay, so you have been stranded in Barstow. You were recently elected CEO of the Calexit movement after holding I believe, 4 to 5 week term as interim president after the sort of meltdown slash internal civil war slash internal divorce within the larger organization. We're going to avoid saying the name because some people believe that lawsuits are the way to handle discussions. But and then you went to see Adam Kokesh, who is the leader of a micronation called
Gardenia, or the Garden of Freedom.
The Garden of Freedom. And you were going there as the newly elected CEO as part of a plan to meet leaders of other secession movements directly, like Texas Nationalist Movement with Daniel Miller, the newly elected leader over there, Alu Axelman with the New Hampshire Independence Movement. Also, we were going to work on getting hold of Poki Lanui of the Hawaii Sovereignty Movement. And you have already been, in extensive contact with people in the Pacifica or Cascadia movement, and also with the Artsakh region of Armenia, which is itself an independent state recognized only by the California government, basically, and also the Afar region of Ethiopia, I believe.
Afar and Tigray.
Okay, Afar and Tigray regions of Ethiopia, and their interest in separatism, or at least their persecution for having an independent identity at a national scale. Okay, and coming back from Adam Kokesh, the car basically blew up, or engine blew out, or something like that.
Yeah, a piston exploded inside of the motor, and it threw the rod through the side, through the thick part, the side of the engine block, punched a hole right through, killed the engine.
Yeah,
dead in a heartbeat.
And that was as you were leaving Adam Kokesh's Gardenia project, establishing relations between Calexit and other independent, peaceful sovereignty movements here domestically and abroad, as we just covered at the introduction. You were in the desert inside California, somewhere between the Arizona border and about 2 hours east of Barstow, or something like that.
Yeah, for anyone who may be familiar with the southern Mojave Desert stretch of Route 66, now Highway 40, the old ghost town is Amboy or something like that. That's where the car blew up. It is literally the middle of nowhere on the edge of the Mojave Desert. And thanks to your kindness, we were able to get unstuck from the side of the highway with about the same amount of room between our faces right now. That's about how much room we had between the speeding semi-trucks and the side of our car.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was really scary.
Yeah, that's kind of terrifying. I can imagine being stuck there for any length of time.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't make the shoulder wider, but that's interesting. So you got into Barstow from the car basically dying on you a few hours outside of Barstow in the desert. Basically, there's nothing there. Tatooine, I believe, as we described it. And then you got to Barstow, and you've been in Barstow about a month long, raising money to get a new car to be able to transport yourself back to life and adventures as you had previously known. And you're out of it now. That's why we're doing the interview. So, we're back on wherever we were going before, which is a great journey of rebuilding. Yes, also check us out at calexithome.com. That's Calexit Home on Twitter.
Yes.
Calexit Home on Twitter. Calexit Home on Twitter. Right. And that is where we're trying to establish contact from the people that are the 160,000 people who know about Yes California, we're part of the movement. Or even if you're part of the 240,000 people who were with the movement before in early 2017. We're moving on past Lewis. He's not part of this anymore. he's erupted. You know why? He said it basically himself in mass emails and tweets, and he's put it out there. So I'll just leave it there. Still the best publicist I ever knew, taught me everything about publicity, but we have to move on. So that's where it is. And we held elections. I'm president, spokesperson, Jason CEO. He'll be running the administrative side of the organization. Rabbi Stephen Axelman is an envoy and vice president, in addition to being a consigliere of sorts. And we have open positions for secretary and treasurer because 2 people backed out right before we got started because they bought into the hype. That's unfortunate. But we're still moving on. And I mean, secession is going to happen because, as we always say, the trends are going in only one direction for midterms. But that's all. We'll be covering that in a second. But we want to explain why you had been gone for a little while, and that basically the posts on Twitter were true, that you were genuinely stranded in Barstow. And so for just a couple minutes, tell us about Barstow. Tell us about being stranded. Tell us about how you raised money, how you got out there. Were there any, let's start with this. Were there any lessons about California that you learned while being in Barstow, in the state you were? Enlighten us. Just go crazy.
Oh, I thought I answered the question. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So let me get a little more comfy. As you can see, my hat protected some of my face.
Yeah.
And the rest of it all got fairly roasted. Normally my cheeks are nowhere near this tan. So a month of being in Barstow, a month of being in a place that I had heard of, had passed through a couple of times, had never really stopped there, let alone spent any time. It was interesting, and I learned a lot. I saw a lot of things, some things that were troubling, some things that had me worried, not just for people in Barstow, but for all of California. I also saw things that inspired me, gave me hope. I'll give a few examples of each. And I want to be clear. When I talk about these worrying things, it's not that the people of Barstow are bad people that should worry. That's not the case. What I found was actually mainly society down there, the way that everything has become. It's that way because the government doesn't care. The government doesn't care about the people who are there. They don't care about that land that's there. It's a bunch of desert. Who wants to live there anyway? I mean, look at the Navajo and the Navajo Long Walk. The United States federal government rounded up an entire group of people and forcibly marched them through harsh conditions for a very long period of time. My month looks like nothing compared to what those people went through. And many of them died on the way. And the people who were left at the end of that trip, well, the end of that trip was a place that we know today as the Badlands in Arizona. And it looks like the government doesn't care because, shocker, the government doesn't care. They don't care about the people that they put there, that they put there. They rounded them up and put them in a place where they said, you know, no one wants to be here. We'll just send these people we don't like over to there. They can have it. If they can survive, it's theirs.
That's exactly what we saw with the homeless interview during the gubernatorial debates that we hosted. The one was on site in, I'm drawing a total blank, Lancaster. It's a major city out in the desert area. And LA had been in the process of literally shipping homeless there because they knew it was still in LA County, so it was their jurisdiction, but it was so far out that once you're there, it's really hard to get out of there. I mean, there is bus, but it's very poor. There's almost no resources. You get out there, you kind of get stranded there. So it's almost like a Australia to the English Empire. You send your worst, but you can't really convict them. But you send them out there, and then they're stranded out there. And LA basically developed a policy with Lancaster. We saw that with the series of interviews with LaQuinta Reynolds, who's the leader out there. Would you say that your experience in Barstow was at least philosophically similar?
Yes, and I would point out that when the trip was getting put together for myself as the head of Calexit and Calexit envoy to go and visit Gardenia micronation and go and spend some time learning from Adam Kokesh what his vision of the Garden of Freedom is. When we were putting that whole thing together, originally I was going to take a Greyhound bus from San Francisco, California, over to Flagstaff, Arizona. It was going to be, what was that, $97? In order to get a Greyhound, same line of transportation, a Greyhound out of Barstow, $275.
Really? That's what I'm talking about. That's incredible.
Once you get there, good luck getting out.
Wow. That's incredible.
They built it for that. It is literally like that right there stands to me as the prime example of LaQuinta Reynolds and the whole topic about Lancaster and what LA has done to and with Lancaster. That right there is our proofed pudding. So let me go over a few of these. I'll do a worrying and then an inspirational. That way it's not too heavy.
Blow us away.
So, worry.
Okay. Start with the bad.
I saw many different cases where 90, that's a little bit of a ballpark figure, but I'm going to go with roughly 90% of California when police get calls about like serious felonious crime, dangerous things going down. Usually they respond really quickly. They make sure that something comes of this. In Barstow, if they show up, it's like, half hour, 2 hours after the initial call has been made. They've got a lot of police out there. I saw enough police that I was thinking that I was actually somewhere maybe that had a prison nearby or something, because even in San Francisco, you see a cop here or there, but it's not like you see a train of cop cars every couple of minutes. But in Barstow, you do. At least I did. So it's not due to lack of force. It's not due to lack of funds, because they can sure pay all those people to be on the force. So why is it that they show up hour, 2 hours later? And then why is it that they, police department, open the door? No answer. Yeah, I didn't really expect them to come to the door anyway, and get back in their car, cracking jokes for each other, and drive off. I've never seen that. anywhere in America, let alone in California. I've seen all 50 states, you know. I've lived in several different states. I prefer California, although Hawaii is a close second.
That's fair. Totally fair.
But I've never seen that behavior from the police. The behavior that says, what is there that I can do about it? I mean, it's not like they're cops, right? In uniform, with a badge and a gun, and the squad car with its own personal little jail cell. So there's a worrying. The lack of care from the government, from the agencies that are involved in stewardship of this place, right? I'm not going to presume to say they do not care. What I will say is that when I analyze it and I look at all of these different factors to it, it really appears that they do not care. They just don't. So that's number one worry. Now, number one inspirational, we've been discussing, you know, was stranded in Barstow for a month. But now I'm here in Fresno at your studio recording this with you. We're live, folks.
And I hope you like the accommodations at the studio. We really tried to put it up here and all.
Casa de la Ruiz es más fina.
Nice. What's that? Gracias.
Ah, por nada.
Yeah.
Por nada, hermano.
You know what? 2 butlers at your disposal this evening. Okay, 2 butlers, and I'm going to move you up to the presidential suite.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, done.
So the number one inspirational is the fact that we actually got enough help that we're not stranded. My driver and I, right? For those of you who aren't familiar, my driver is a long time friend of mine, like 15 years or so. Friend of mine who has been living in Oregon for several years. She needed a little vacation. I said, hey, rather than spend money on a Greyhound and put myself through being on a Greyhound for like a week, instead of that, if you have a working car and you want a vacation, be my driver. I'll get you an invite extension to go out to Gardenia. We can go hang out with this, you know, Adam Kokesh, like, he really is one of the highest up folks of the Libertarian Party.
Rock star.
He is the rock star of the Libertarians. I was quite impressed with the man, really.
Yeah, a little bit of a fanboy moment.
Yeah. Well, I found kind of that kindred spirit, like what we have, like brothers, like.
He'll never have what we have.
Well, so we got unstranded from Barstow, and that is because of the kindness of many people in Barstow. There is a significant amount of crime. However, not everyone who goes and commits a crime is actually a terrible person who's just going to murder you in your sleep or something. A lot of the crime is like petty theft. People stealing, cereal and milk from the store so that they can eat it. People selling drugs so that they can have food for their kids. Some scam stuff also because they're so hard up. It's a situational thing. The amount of care and the amount of resource out there is next to none. So I don't find fault with the people who resort to extraordinary measures like that. They're, by and large, not seeming to go around and murder people and do all that. And we could have, we could have been subject to all sorts of things. I mean, there's gang activity, both red and blue. And we didn't get shot at. We heard gunshots, but we were never shot at. People asked us if we wanted drugs. When we turned them down respectfully, they didn't push it. Oh, okay. Have a good one. Lots of people wished us safety. Okay, well, I hope you stay safe. And I could tell they really meant it. They were like, dude, this is a dangerous place. This is not the place you want to be stranded. You know how many people told us that people who end up stranded here, and it's usually because their engine blew up out on the 40, they usually don't get out of there.
What?
That's because the amount of care and the amount of resource is next to none. The amount of crime is a lot higher, and the cops care that much about any of the crime.
Wow.
So we actually got treated really well. People like befriended us and made sure that we were okay here and there. There was a local guy who offered us that we could come up to his hotel room for a little bit and charge up our phones because we needed them. Because, my driver had to GoFundMe up. I had to GoFundMe up. Between the GoFundMes, a few personal friends and connections coming through, which hopefully we will get out to Sacramento to personally thank the couple of you in Sacramento who hooked up a couple $100 each. You seriously helped out with like half of that car's cost. Thank you. But aside from that, we wouldn't have made the mark if we weren't flying a sign while I was playing guitar. And, I posted that picture on my my personal Facebook page of blister the size of the end of my finger on the end of my finger. And this finger, the skin shredded up so bad that it was bleeding. And I got the bleeding to stop and took the picture. But I literally played my fingers to non-playable condition while, flying the sign and, asking just very candidly, very honestly. We broke down. She's from Oregon. I live up in the Bay Area. She needs to get back to her kids. I need to get back to my candidates and my life. And being the head of Calexit, anything helps. Lots of change, lots of ones. But you know what? It all adds up. And it did. It added up to enough that we got a used car that we could afford that runs decently, got rid of the old car that we had been living out of for a month, and got back on the road. And we left Barstow, and this is how you folks can know that it's live. We left Barstow yesterday. We got here late last night. A little snafu with Google Maps. Put in a street address and it sends us to an intersection.
Yeah, so for the first time ever in my life being here with the advent of Google Maps and stuff like that, they sent them to the west side of Fresno along Shaw, which if you know Fresno, that's all farm country. I mean, there's little cities out there and stuff, but Fresno's rural surrounded, but it's a big metro area. And I was like, and the 99 literally goes at the edge of the urban area because they tried to stall the growth on the west side and allow it only going east out to the northeast, up to the foothills. So I was like, you got to turn around and then go basically backwards. You can cross back to the 99, and then you're actually in the city of Fresno, which you did. And eventually we hooked up and we went to In-N-Out.
Yeah. Good old In-N-Out.
Yeah. Mm. And Ashland and Blackstone. Yeah. Quick time. Little wait. I was surprised because all the In-N-Outs I get to are always ridiculously packed here in Fresno. So
yeah, no, and they had a line, but they were handling it
yeah, they were doing pretty well. So
yeah.
What else did you learn at Barstow? Because I know we got some speeches we got.
Yeah. So there's the lack of care from the officials, but there's also the kindness from the locals, the people there. Even people on varying sides of things. I mean, everyone who knows me knows I am about as big of a fan of Joe Biden as I am of Donald Trump. I don't like either of them. I see them both as representative of the problem that Californians face. Californians like myself, yourself, yourselves. Those who run the federal government just use us for their unlimited spending card. And California, being bled dry, right, has places that have insane amounts of wealth being generated and being collected. And then there are also places like Barstow, where I am fairly certain, given what I know of nation building and laws of varying municipal, state, federal, and what we like to call extrajudicial or international.
I love it when you do
law.
That.
I can safely say, if Barstow was actually cared for, it would probably be a decent place to be. Like anywhere in California. All of California is facing these problems left and right that compound each other, but ultimately, it only faces those. Every single pocket like that, right? It had some resource, and as all of California gets bled dry, they go down further and further and further until there's nothing left. You know, my work for one of, my church, the First Presbyterian of San Rafael.
Yeah.
My local church up in Marin. When people are in a dire circumstance, churches up there like rally together. They call one another and say, hey, I've got this person who needs some help. Can you help them? Can you and your congregation come together with us, and we can all pool everything together and make sure this person gets the help they need? Down there was literally just enough resource to get a cheap hotel room for one night, which was a total godsend. I mean, when you live out of a broken down car for a month, I could smell myself. Not gonna lie. We're all human. Even the head of Calexit, right? I know supposedly we're a bunch of superhuman robots that were genetically engineered and paid for by Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, and North Korea put our atomic cell in there to make us run or something.
Bent on the dissolution of America.
Yes.
So that we can tear it down.
Yeah, right.
It's our only goal that motivates us in life.
I know we're supposed to be that, but really I am just another human being, just like yourself, just like yourself.
I'm a lizard person. I'm putting that out there. Okay, so to wrap it up, and we're going to do some speeches and then another episode of National Divorce Talk Raw with a special guest coming up soon.
Okay, so I wanted to also go into the potential that I see, and I'll skip over the rest of the worrying stuff because ultimately that won't matter if we Calexit. So the potential is that Barstow, being so surrounded in desert, now there's a continent called Africa, and there is one of the largest, most expansive, and hottest deserts in the world over there. And they have been reclaiming the Sahara Desert for some years now. And the way that they've been doing it is quite ingenious, and it could easily be done here. If only there was some care, if only, the people in power actually cared, A seed wrapped in manure, a little manure pellet, whole bunch of them in a big cylinder underneath an aircraft, flies over, drops them out, disperses them. Some of them don't grow, but some of them do. And so the important thing to do is, the rainy day is coming, and you go and put all these out there so that things get the water and they stand a little more chance of, growing. And we did see rain once while we were there on Monday. It actually rained. So I'm sure the poppy bloom, the annual
right,
golden poppy bloom.
Yeah.
We unfortunately did not get to see that, but I've heard it is one of the most beautiful and spectacular sights that California has to offer.
Yeah.
So if you're ever in that area, early spring, I guess, is the time of year, the poppy bloom. So they could do this and gradually have more plant life. And obviously, you don't use seeds from plants that need some other climate, right? You wouldn't use alpine tree seed to try to plant it out in the desert. You could do things other than just cacti, though. And that's pretty much all that's there, is because no one really cares. No one's really trying. There's some mesquite and, but ultimately it's just wild desert that could be reclaimed. And gradually, the amount of greenage would, one, help to change that microclimate enough that it would actually be a little bit cooler. It also wouldn't be as dry, both in the soil and in the air. That would make it more livable. Imagine that. Not only that, but you could start to grow produce. If you could reclaim a decent portion of that surrounding desert, you could create jobs that are agriculture, which is California's number one, agriculture and tech. So you make it an agricultural hub. And it's already a hub for transportation of goods and such. So it could really thrive. All we need to do is get people in office who actually care about Californians and all of California, which means we need to Calexit. We need to get rid of Governor Newsom. And I mean, vote him out of office very clearly, that kind of get rid of him. We need to no longer be in love with that. Can I call him a slime ball and not?
I'd like to keep it PC.
Okay.
We try to do
with that guy.
A professional show here.
Obviously, I'm about as big a fan of Gavin Newsom as I am of Donald Trump and Joseph Biden. That being said, I am seriously a huge fan of California.
Yeah.
And of Californians.
Yeah.
We have our problems. We have our problems individually. We have our problems collectively in our society. We could address and really turn around most of the problems that we have just by regaining our status of independent republic. And, I was talking a lot about that down in Barstow with Trump folk and Biden folk.
Interesting.
And, funny enough, to the Biden folk, I bring up Senator Bernard Sanders, who was my guy. And most Democratic voters in California that I have talked to about the way the DNC undermined Senator Sanders twice, they hang their head. Deep breath. Yeah, that was really sad. I wonder what it would have been, what it could have been. I wonder what might have happened. I wonder if Trump ever would have got elected in the first place. No, he definitely wouldn't have, because Bernard Sanders would have performed the landslide all over that man's face. And you put him up against Biden, and he performs the landslide all over that man's face too. You put him up against beloved Nancy Pelosi or Gavin Newsom, landslide.
What about Kamala Harris? Certainly she would be. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
yes, Kamala Harris. Yes, one of the worst pieces of legislation in California history.
Are those
came
kids
from
in
that
cages?
one. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry. That's
Or we could have had Senator Bernard Sanders, who is very much for the people, against the subjugation of people, especially little ones, and doesn't just laugh, whether it's a nervous laugh or not, doesn't just laugh when a very, very serious issue is being brought up. Oh, what about that nuclear bomb going off and killing 250,000 people? Oh, that is not the reaction that any professional politician should ever have. Ever. This man's face says it all. Someone says 250,000 people just died in the blink of an eye, you get that face. You know, whether it's nervous or not, that is the time to be the strong leader if that's what you really are.
right.
So what we need, someone, not just someone, we need every single electable position in California to be filled with people who are very much not Joe Biden's crony, nor are they Donald Trump's crony. People who are not going to sit there and laugh when an important issue comes up, whether it's a nervous laugh or not. People who care so much about California and Californians that they get this forlorn look on their face of like, oh, it hurts inside here and in here at the same time, on the same level. Those people, when they're well-spoken, you get them into an office. You let them go and run things, because I can guarantee you the thing that they're going to do is try to fix the problems that we have. Not laugh, nervous or otherwise. Not ignore it until the shouting is too much that, okay, fine, we'll release some oil barrels from our reserves then. I mean, the time to do that was like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I get it, you know, he's finally got around to it. But do we want someone who is going to wait as long as they possibly can until they are forced to do something? Or do we just want a smart person who's well-spoken and cares? In order to have that second one, the only way that we're really going to get that is if we Calexit. And that's not just my opinion, that's my analysis.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. And we'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you.
Also, quickly, to everyone in Barstow who was kind, the tamale lady who gave us some free tamales more than once, homemade too. Oh, so good. Everyone who helped get us unstranded from Barstow, Y2K Micah at Y2K Scrapyard helped us find someone who had the running vehicle we ended up getting. Reggie, who was going to sell us a car and said, you're better off saving the extra money. They're about the same. Save yourselves the money. You're going to need it for gas. Also was a mechanic and did our oil change for us, but right before we got on the road. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if I ever get into power of any sort where I can affect some change in Barstow, you can bet your sweet Bippy I will do everything in my power to help out. Thank you so much for your kindness.
Thank you.